Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Surrealist. Today we'll see how to draw a realistic eye step by step. So the first step is drawing the outline of an eye. When drawing the eye, always begin by drawing a sphere and wrapping the lids over it. Outline of an eye has the upper and the lower eyelids, the middle portion which is the iris and the right side inner corner of an eye. So make sure that your outline covers all the parts of the eye. Once you're done with the outline, start adding highlights to the outline. Start by highlighting the upper and the lower eyelids, followed by right side inner corner of the eye and the iris portion. For all of you wondering what an iris is, it is the middle colored portion of an eye, and inside of an iris has a round black opening. So fill the middle black portion of the iris with black color. This is usually the darkest portion of an eye. Keep adding highlights to the shadow portions of the eyelids and the iris. Please remember, in an eye or any part of the face, proportions are very important. So keep that in mind when drawing the outlines and highlighting them. Make sure your proportions are correct because once the highlights are done with colored pencils, it is very difficult to remove them. If you're not sure, then highlight using an HB pencil first, and once it seems correct, then cover the highlights with black color. Now, remember the two most important tips. First is the outer corner of the eye is usually higher than the inner corner. And the second tip is the upper eyelid should always partially cover the top of the iris. The top of the iris is never a full round shape. Once you're done adding the highlights around the outline, start adding the base layer. This layer will act as a primer for the skin texture. Start by adding the light skin tones as a base layer for the skin surrounding the eyes. Once the base layer is done, start drawing the eyelashes. I always highlight the lashes before adding skin textures. Otherwise, at a later stage, it becomes difficult to pull highlights. Keep in mind, you're working with pencil colors. In this, the tip is that the eyelashes on the upper eyelid tend to be darker than the lashes on the lower eyelid. Hence, I suggest put more weight on the lashes of the upper eyelid and lighter weight when drawing the lower eyelid. Once you're done pulling out the eyelashes, start coloring the iris. Remember what I told in the beginning of the video when I said that iris is the middle portion of the eye which is colored. Start adding colors to the iris. You can use various shades of blue, chrome, green, brown or black to cover the various layers of the iris. The tip here is to keep blending different layers of colors and burnishing them and then pulling out the highlights. Using your lightest chosen colors, fill in the areas with the most light. Continue to fill in the lightest areas, adding in some darker shades for detail. Remember, with pencil colors, it is much easier to make colors darker than it is to make the colors on the lighter side. Now that we are done coloring the iris, we start introducing the flesh tones around the skin. In order to set the eyes in natural context, it is extremely important to blend the right colors to get the perfect texture of skin tone around the eyes. Since we already added a flat pastel color as a base layer, as next step we start adding more depth to the skin. Firstly, we need to identify the most distinct areas. For example, start by identifying the light and dark tones around the eyelids. We lightly shade in the darker areas of the skin tone with the mid-brown color pencil. As these areas are transitional tones, which are gently changing from light to dark without any obvious edges, we need to proceed very lightly and slowly, carefully building up the shading until we are confident of their dimensions. It is important not to overdo your shading at this stage. Slowly and steady is the way to go. Now, keep adding highlights to portions which cast shadows. Keep building volume by adding tone to the form. You can keep pulling out the highlights in the process and giving clarity around the edges. Now that you've blended the skin with darker skin tones, you may start adding pressure to the pencil to further blend the skin. This way, you will keep adding depth to the skin tone and give a smooth texture to the skin. With this, we come to the next part where we see how burnishing is done. So what does it mean to burnish colored pencil? Burnishing involves layering and blending until you cannot see paper trails through the colored pencil layers. This process generally involves pressing the pencil harder to transfer as much color to the layer, which will hide the paper tooths within different lighter layers of the colors. This brings us to the next question: why is burnishing required in drawing a pencil color sketch? Burnishing as a word technically means to polish by rubbing. The word actually comes from a word that means to brown. The resulting color is brighter and richer. So if you want that your drawing should have a natural and realistic look, then it is absolutely necessary to keep burnishing the sketch at various stages. Also, you might ask if there are any tools available for burnishing. The most commonly used burnishing tool is something called a colorless blender. A colorless blender is basically a colored pencil without color. Generally, colorless blenders work with any wax-based color pencil. There are also oil-based blenders available. So check your favorite brands to see if they make a colorless blender specifically for that brand. Otherwise, any of the other blenders are likely to work. Use colorless blenders just like you use a regular pigmented colored pencil, but press very hard on the paper. The material in the colorless blender helps move the color around the paper, filling in the tooth of the paper and blending the color without adding any additional color. You can also use a colored pencil for burnishing. If you use a lighter color to burnish darker colors, the lighter colors will make the other colors lighter and tint them with whatever color you use. For example, if you burnish red and greens with light yellow, you will blend the darker colors together but will also give them a yellow tint. The same thing happens if you burnish light colors with a darker color, though the result is usually much more dramatic. The resulting color is usually quite a bit darker. If you burnish red with red, the color won't change at all, other than to appear brighter. Now, coming to the anatomy of an eye, there are two forms in the inner corner of an eye. First is carbuncula, which is the outer form of the inner corner, and second is the semilunar fold, which is inner form attached to the eyeball. When you start shading these two forms, please remember to pull out the reflections and highlights. Finally, keep adding layer, pull out highlights, keep blending and give clarity to the edges until you achieve the desired results. So friends, with this we have come to the end of the video. Don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button at the bottom right hand corner of the screen.